What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the channel. Today we have two deck lists for you guys. You guys have been requesting both Cad Bane deck lists that have been featured in the channel in the past couple of weeks. So we have both of them for you guys in the same video because it is the same leader. So we're just gonna kind of talk about the leader, the deck list, both the Cad Bane double yellow that went up against my Obi-Wan double blue deck. We're going to showcase that deck list, go over some of the highlights. We're going to be bringing in some of the matches from previous videos, just kind of show off the highlights of the deck, just to kind of show what you want to kind of do with the deck, right? We're also going to be going over that Cad Bane green deck list that went up against Maul ECL. So we have that for you guys, as well as some highlights from a previous matchup that we can go ahead and showcase the deck and kind of what you want to do with it as well. That being said, I want to give a huge shout out to Oddball, the winner of my last giveaway. He sent me a couple of pictures of him with the giveaway and then also some of his pulls. So he was able to get a few cards that he was actually looking for, which is really nice. I'm glad he really enjoyed it. Shout out to you, Oddball. Thank you so much for the support. If you guys are new here, make sure you hit that sub button down below as well. We do a lot of giveaways and just kind of have a good time here, just going over some of the deck lists that are in the local scene. Maybe not quite as high competitive of deck lists, but they're still fun to kind of go over and show some of the best of threes from local scenes as well. And then also, if you haven't done so yet, check down the description below and check out Maclunky Gaming. Go ahead and show your love to them and hit the sub button for them as well. With all that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the deck list sent to me by Bluesers. This is the exact deck list, and we're just going to kind of go over what you want to do with this list and kind of how it works. Obviously, Cad Bane, the ability to ping something, right? You play an underworld unit, you exhaust him, you get to ping something on your opponent's side of the board. Your opponent does get to choose what they ping if there is more than one unit, which is, you know, a little bit rough sometimes, but it's not the end of the world. You can still get some really good damage spread across the board, right? And then he comes out on 6, and then when you play an underworld unit, you can go ahead and ping something for 2. Opponent again gets to choose, but now you're dealing 2 damage to something. It's really solid. Also, he is a 2/8, so that 8 HP coming out on 6 is hard to kind of deal with at times. And then he also has Raid 2, so he's swinging in for 4. So Cad Bane is really strong and really good at kind of pinging things across the board. Is he as good as Jango Fett, Sabine, Han, maybe some of the top tier decks? Maybe not, but I still think that he's really solid and could be put like maybe not at the highest tier, but later the tier below. Like, I think he is a very solid leader. Blue decided to go with the double yellow base just so he can go ahead and play Cunning for 4, right? Playing Cunning for 4 really slows down aggro matchups. Being able to exhaust something or exhaust 2 units and bounce something back to hand can really set them back to the point where they can't even come back, right? Also, being able to give one of your units +4/+0 is really strong as well to provide pressure on your opponent, or even just to take out a unit on your opponent's side that you don't want to deal with. So that's kind of the main reason I feel like he runs double yellow, because that is the only double yellow card in the deck. Now, could you argue that he could go ahead and play a different color and just pay 6 for Cunning? Yes, but I think the Cunning for 4 is really what he's going for. He also has the Cantina Bouncer in the sideboard, so that's another reason. If he has to go ahead and bring it in to the main board, he only has to pay 5 for the Cantina Bouncer. It is a little bit interesting to not see Bodhi Rook in a double yellow deck, just because of how good it is in getting rid of events or non-unit cards from your opponent's hand. You also get hand knowledge off of that. But this is what he rocks with. This is what he swears by. And I'm not going to rip on it. I'm just going to kind of talk about it, right? Another thing to kind of look at is that there's no Surprise Strike. For me, I love Surprise Strike. I think that we talked about it. He's not a huge fan of Surprise Strike, and he opted to go with Breaking In. I do think that Breaking In is a very solid card, being able to get Saboteur on a unit and +2/+0, so you're really only missing out on that 1 extra damage. But that 1 extra damage could be kind of big, and taking out a unit or just dealing that extra damage to maybe finish off a game. But still, Breaking In, very solid card, and you get Saboteur to get around decks that run Heavy Sentinel and stuff like that. So very, very good there. You have the staples like Greedo, Maclunky, Lady Proxima, the ability to ping a base, as well as using Cad Bane's ability to ping units potentially, is really good, right? Every time you play an Underworld card, when it comes to Lady Proxima, you're pinging your opponent's base. So even if you are using your units to take out your opponent's units and kind of keeping the board control, you can still manage to ping your opponent's base after you play each Underworld card to still get on that damage onto base, which is kind of big. Also, the combination between Cloud Rider and Cad Bane being able to swing into something with 4 HP and take it out, a Maclunky and Cad Bane hitting in for 4. Like, there's some really big combos to really keep the early game of your opponents really oppressed and just kind of take over from there, right? You see the Hot Shot Blaster. The Hot Shot Blaster is only going to be played from resource. So whenever you see it in hand, just throw it right in your resources. You're never going to want to pay 3 out of hand for a Hot Shot Blaster. Also makes resourcing, when you have that card in hand, really easy. Don't have to think about it. Just put it down. Bane is really solid, being able to get that card hate, the hand hate, make your opponent discard a card. They do get to draw a card after the fact, but you can still deal with an immediate threat before your opponent gets to play it, right? Just get it right in the discard pile, and then they get to draw a card. It is what it is, right? You have early space threats like Lurking TIE Phantom, just to get in some big hits early. We know how devastating that card can be because the only way you can take it out is if you swing into it. So if you're playing up against control, it's really good because it cannot be hit with Rival's Fall, Takedown, anything like that, right? So it's really good, and it's hitting for 4. It has grade 2. It is really easy to be taken out because it only does have 2 HP, but still, if you can get in a couple swings early, it can really kind of put you in a really good spot early on, right? And then you're looking at the kind of the bigger units, right? And then we'll go over the new cards from set 3 that he added. You have the Forlom Zuckuss combo. You know, it's just fun. Zero the Hut. It is a new card. It's a very interesting card. You're able to use things like No Good to Me Dead to get it. No, not No Good to Me Dead. Now there are 2 of them to get Zero the Hut out on turn 2. If you go ahead and do that against an aggro deck, it is devastating, right? You go ahead, you get Zero out early, right? Let's just say turn 2. When she's played, you get to exhaust an enemy unit. Really strong right there. If you're going up against aggro, it stops them from being able to hit you right away, right? That being said, on attack, you then get to go ahead and exhaust opponent's resources, right? You get to, on attack, exhaust the resources that your opponent controls. That is really big because it stops your opponent from being able to play on curve, which is really strong. And also being a 2/8 makes it extremely hard to deal with early in the game. So if this is a card that ends up out on turn 2, it is almost like, it is devastating to see, especially because Cad Bane will be able to play on curve and kind of keep things rolling. So you kind of want to make sure that you don't get stuck having to deal with Zero, because then you have to get it off the board as quickly as possible. Mainly because 1, again, you're not gonna be able to play on curve, and 2, it's like if it stays on the board, then you're just kind of just every turn just 1 resource short, 1 resource short. It becomes really oppressive. And then the final new card we're kind of looking at, we have Cad Bane, the actual unit. You get to capture up to 3 units that equal up to 8 or less remaining HP, which is really, really good because you can manage to capture 2 to 3 units on the board, right? We saw that in the previous matchup between Cad Bane Green and ECL Maul. So Maul's had 3 units on the board. He played Cad Bane. All 3 of them got captured. So it's really strong in kind of slowing down your opponent's initial like end game, right? Because you can go ahead and take it over and not have to really worry about it. But like really the whole premise of this deck is to kind of use Cad Bane's pinging ability to slow down your opponent and use it for board control, as well as, you know, Greedo, Maclunky, Lady Proxima to get those pings on the base. No Good to Me Dead, Cartel Spacer to exhaust your opponent's units. So let's go ahead and hop into maybe some highlights of how the deck works and how we can kind of see the pieces in action and kind of where he was thinking, right? All right, so in this part of the video, I'm just going to go ahead and highlight some of the key points to the deck. I'm going to be jumping around, right, in this, but I'm going to show you the first couple of turns in this match, right? You're going to go ahead and you're going to see the ping, but that's not the important part, right? The Cloud Rider comes out, there's no ambush, it does not matter. This is the part that matters, right? I'm going to show you a couple of turns early in this matchup, and this is kind of what you want to try to strive for when it comes to this deck, right? You want to keep the board state of your opponent at a minimum, right? So you have the 3 damage in on both sides here, right? And then you go ahead and you see the Maclunky come out. Now, even though your opponent has a space unit, it's not that hard to get rid of an early space unit as long as you have like Maclunky in hand. Being able to deal 3 damage to either area is really strong. But then on top of that, being able to then go ahead and play the Cloud Rider to deal that 4 damage with Cad Bane's ping ability to really clear the board and making sure your opponent has nothing after the turn, right? So like for this instance, you're really seeing the ability to board control from turn 1 to turn 2. Yes, your opponent has a space unit, but it does not matter because with Maclunky and then getting Cloud Rider back to hand, and then even when you saw the 4 HP unit coming out, the Cloud Rider came in and killed it with the Cad Bane ping, which is going to happen again on turn 3. So that's, again, really easy early board control is what you want to go for in this deck and kind of keep your opponent under control. Now, at this point in the match, right, you're at 6 resources and there's nothing on the board, right? That's what you want to get. You want to make sure that your opponent has nothing on the board, so you have a free Cad Bane flip, and then also to kind of think about it, with nothing else on the board, if your opponent has no removal in hand, Cad Bane at a 2/8 with nothing else to really kind of give it a threat. Like, yes, you have ECL Poe and stuff like that, but if there is no ECL Poe, like, Cad Bane is kind of free here. It's in a really good position. Now the ability to use the Cunning to go ahead and give it a buff, the +4/+0, while also making your opponent discard a card randomly from hand to get rid of the options, it could really disrupt your opponent. And now you're kind of seeing everything kind of come into motion here. The early game, using Cloud Rider, Cad Bane's pings over and over again to kind of make sure that there's nothing that sticks. And now Cad Bane's out here and he's, creating a ruckus. And, the player has to kind of decide, like, which one do I have to go ahead and give up Obi-Wan to then not get an ability here? So I think at this point, the flip of the Obi-Wan, he sees it, and then, like, if he passed, the Cad Bane player just takes the initiative and all that stuff. So now being able to use, again, Cunning to take out the other Obi-Wan leader, pretty much useless in this matchup because of the Cunning, right? And now you're going to also see the ability with Relentless Pursuit to take the Sentinel and not really get slowed down. He also gets a shield, so if there's another Sentinel that comes up, he's going to go ahead and get that shield to protect him because he is a bounty hunter. And this is where things kind of go off the rails for the Obi-Wan player here, because again, because of the early game board control, flipping Cad Bane with no real threat to him. So you see the Jedi lightsaber come out, and then boom, the Relentless Pursuit. So it's just at that point now where the Cad Bane player is in complete control here. Okay, at this point in the match, now you see the Lady Proxima, and this is where we're going to start to showcase the pinging of the opponent's base. Now you see the Eye of the High Ground, making it so the Sentinel's not able to be, like, penetrated, which is really good. But the thing is that you're still going to be able to deal damage to your opponent's base by playing Underworld units at this point, if you choose to do so with Lady Proxima. It's a really good combination of things to still, again, be able to get in damage on the base, even if there is a Sentinel on board. That wasn't even recorded, but the ping, there it is. The ping from the Lady Proxima, putting the Obi-Wan player at 7. And now you're going to just see the onslaught. You see how the board state has changed from nothing on the Cad Bane side, that from the flip turn to the turn after, right? This is just 2 turns. Look at the board state compared to the opponent's side. So there is a lot of things that you can do with this deck, from, again, early board control into just flooding the board really quickly. It gets pretty crazy. Another, I have the high ground, again, for that protection. But you see the Zuckuss in hand. So this allows the Forlom to give it ambush and then hit with enough, right? With the Cad Bane trigger, it deals 3 and then gets enough. And it has 7 HP, so he's able to live. And that's the Forlom Zuckuss combo. If you can get that off, it's really solid. Everything's just kind of falling apart. Able to take out the Cad Bane with the Luke, though, and get the Obi-Wan back on the side. But is it enough? Probably not, right? All right, at this point in the match here, right, it's 13 damage to 2 damage. The board states are kind of, still in favor of Cad Bane, which is really good. You're going to see, although this would be a breaking in at this point of where the deck is, still being able to put your opponent up to 21 damage, where in this instance, he's going to be able to use Surprise Strike and go ahead and hit the base head on for big damage. But that's what you're going to see with this deck, right? Early game, control the board, flip out Cad Bane, and then you're going to start to see, like, the pumping spells and the pumping events and stuff like that with breaking in and cunning to hit your opponent's base super hard, because it's really hard to kind of stop both space when you have lurking TIE Phantoms and no space or way to remove them. And then Zuckuss on the ground, even though I do have a Sentinel, it doesn't matter because he's Saboteur. So that's kind of what you're seeing with this deck, right? It's super fun, super strong. You're going to see the deck list come back out here, but it's a lot of fun to kind of see what this deck can really do, right? All right, and there's the scoop. But still, let me know what you guys think about the deck. Obviously, you see the deck list up here. It's maybe a little bit unconventional, but still a lot of fun to play. Try it out. Maybe you might want to add a different color in there just for the one cunning. I don't know if some people might want to do it that way. But with that being said, we're going to now hop over to the green deck list that you guys saw and requested. All right, now you kind of see the deck list we're working with for Cad Bane green here. Obviously, the same thing with the Hotshot DL44 blasters. They're only going to go straight into resources. Again, being able to play them and kind of hit the base or a unit with a little bit extra punch, which is really nice. This deck, again, same as the double yellow deck. Early game, you kind of want to play a more board control-y style. So you're going to be pinging your opponent's units with Cad Bane's ability while swinging into them with Greedo and stuff like that. And then also using Maclunky, Sleepy Crumb's ability to ping more things and kind of go that route, using Toro early to be able to re-ready him when you play Bounty Hunter by dealing a damage to that Bounty Hunter, to be able to swing into maybe more units or maybe even into the base to get some damage while also taking out other units as well. So that's kind of what you're seeing here. Overall Mirage being able to kind of, again, control the board at that 5 resource mark, using No Good to Me Dead for Zuckuss, or Forlom if you want to go on turn 2. Forlom could also work in terms of board control and stuff like that. Pirated Starfighter. Now that's a really cool tech here. One, because you can use it with many things and get the ability more than once, right? You're going to see in this upcoming clip that you're going to see Crafty Smuggler getting a shield over and over and over again using Pirated Starfighter, but then also being able to use it in matchups like Bosk, right? Being able to use Pirated Starfighter to bounce back a unit that has a bounty on it, which is really nice, and using it in that matchup while also being able to still, again, in the mid game, be able to burst out damage with things like Surprise Strike, Overwhelm Barrage to give your units an extra little bit of punch as well. And then the late game, as you know, Maul has that Overwhelm and Ambush, being able to deal that damage that it receives on the ambush attack to an Underworld unit. There are plenty of options when it comes to that. Also being able to use Pirated Starfighter to use Bazine's ability more than once, right? That's also really big because you're able to kind of make sure your opponent doesn't have answers in hand, which is nice. But again, it's kind of similar in the ways they play. It just plays different cards, right? You're not seeing Cunning in this deck list, but you are seeing Overwhelm Mirage, and you are seeing Surprise Strike in this deck list and things like that. You're still going to try to go for the, now there are 2 of them, potentially get the Zuckuss on turn 2, because that's really hard to get over, especially because it does have Saboteur. So even if you do put up a Sentinel, it doesn't matter because he's still going to swing into base anyway. And if he has Zuckuss turn 2, it's just really strong. But again, same premise with this deck list, but different in the fact that there are just more options to kind of play around with when it comes to the pings. Again, Salacious B. Crumb adding in more pings, also healing 1 every time you play it, so kind of bouncing him around, right? It's a lot of fun, the deck list, but we're also going to go ahead and hop over to the little bit of demonstration of how it works. It's a lot of fun, this deck list. Again, being able to use different options to ping things and then also take things out as more. This deck list, I feel like with green, is more geared towards board control with Overwhelm Mirage and stuff like that. So, and then you can kind of flip the game in the late game. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and show off a match to showcase some of these cards and the tech and how the deck works. So we'll be seeing you in a bit. All right, now we're here with the matchup between ECL Maul against the Cad Bane. And you're going to see, again, kind of the way that the Cad Bane double yellow player went about it. Early game, just kind of control the board. And, you know, then the late game, flip it around, right? Now you're going to see the Lady Proxima as well as everything on top of everything. You're going to see a lot of pings. You get the one ping from Cad Bane on Kalatai Silencer. Now the Lady Proxima comes out here, and no matter what he ends up playing, you're going to see some pings on base, right? You're going to see the Greedo come out, boom, ping on base, goes to 3 damage. All right, so now at this point, right, the Darth Maul came out, took out Greedo and Lady Proxima, and then now is up to 5 damage. And you're going to see some really cool interaction here where you have the Crafty Smuggler take out the Darth Maul, right? Lose its shield, stay alive. He is going to go ahead and take back damage, right? Put him at 6. But he's able to then go ahead and use the pirated Starfighter to bounce the Crafty Smuggler back to hand, while also using Cad Bane's ping ability to take out everything on board, right? So the shield from the Crafty Smuggler kept the Crafty Smuggler alive to allow him to do this. And then he's able to also go ahead and now put the Crafty Smuggler on board, right? So you kind of see how he went from his opponent having 2 decently sized units, right? You have the Darth Maul and then also the Kalatai Silencer, to none, right? Using that shield, pirated Starfighter to bring back the Crafty Smuggler back to hand, and then be able to play it again. And now that it has its shield again, it can swing into something and still live, which is really nice. If he wants to go ahead and use Surprise Strike to take out a bigger unit or something like that, or just, go ahead and hit the board repeatedly. All right, now we're jumping ahead, right? You see the Xanadu Blood come out here. Another way to bounce back the Crafty Smuggler to hand, and then again, being able to play it again and get the shield back. It's pretty cool to be able to use your units to go ahead and do that. But then also you can use it to exhaust units or exhaust resources, which is really nice. Again, another way to kind of go up against control boss if they're using a bunch of bounties and stuff like that. You can manage to bounce the things back to your hand and get rid of the bounties. So you don't really have to focus too much on confiscate, which is really nice. But it's the Cad Bane flip turn. Things are exhausted due to No Good to Me Dead. And now you're going to be able to see some good damage being dealt into the base. 25 HP on the base for the ECL, right? So you have 2 years swinging it for 5, and that's going to put him at 10, and that's only 15 HP left compared to 25. That's a big difference, especially because of the units that are on the board at the moment, right? Maul can't one-shot Cad Bane unless you have an overwhelm Mirage and stuff like that. But do they want to go ahead and hit Cad Bane, or do they want to hit the Xanadu Blood here, right? The Xanadu Blood, if it's able to attack and bounce something and exhaust, makes the overwhelm Barrage a little bit useless here. But that's the thing, right? You have to decide what you want to do. Is the ping worse? Because the ping essentially can go ahead and take out units, but still elects to overwhelm Barrage the Cad Bane, and then the Xanadu Blood popping and exhausting the Maul. So that's big, right? You see another 6 damage going into base, and the Maul gets exhausted, and that's kind of what you want to do. Again, get the early game, control the board, and then put yourself in the best position to kind of still slow down your opponent while still dealing damage into base as much as possible, which you get that opportunity with things like Xanadu Blood and No Good to Me Dead, and then stuff like that, and then being able to bounce and play things and ping things with Underworld units. Do the Forlom come out here with the ambush, being able to take out the Salacious Beak Crumb so it can't ping and go back to hand and help Ryan heal a little bit. And you see the Lady Proxima come out, and then ending with that Crafty Smuggler once again. 3rd time being played, so it's the same Crafty Smuggler we've seen all game, just getting its shield back over and over again. And with the Lady Proxima combo, ping the base for 1. So it's still, right, you have the Maul on one side, right? That's a scary unit. But overall, I think that this is a decent board state for the Cad Bane player. Because you have the ping ability with Lady Proxima, unless the unit Maul comes out in ambush and kills it. Again, through all the pings, the early game being able to kind of slow down Maul. The furlong gets run into, gets damage into the base due to overwhelm, but that's okay. Now you see the Hotshot Blaster going in. The Lady Proxima is now going to go ahead and deal some damage into base. Again, at 17, at this point, you can go and try to get as much damage into the base as possible. Doing it on the Lady Proxima here makes sense, right? So you don't have to worry about the Crafty Smuggler getting taken out. So you're guaranteed to get the full 4 damage on base. Here, and you see the 3 come in from the Kylo. He's going to go ahead and take out the Maul with the Crafty Smuggler. You see a punishing one come out. So you see the Maul player going to space, which is pretty good for the Cad Bane player, because the Cad Bane player is able to now kind of just make sure that he can go ahead and play things, deal 1 with the Lady Proxima. Now you're starting to see all the pings, right? Putting your opponent at 20 HP, only have 5 HP left. Right now he has lethal on board, and if his opponent does not get a Sentinel, then there's nothing he can do, right? If you have no Sentinel, this is game. And then, which happens to be the case, right? Okay, at this point, you see a timely come in for the Palpatine, right? With Palpatine able to come in and take out each one of the units on the ground, it's pretty big, right? He timelied in, took out the Stitches Be Crumb, and then used the other damage to go ahead and deal the 6 damage into the Crafty Smuggler, who had no shield, and the Lady Proxima, which is exactly 6 HP. So now you're in a little bit of a predicament here, right? Yes, you have your opponent left with 5 HP, but you know, you only have half and no units. But this is where Cad Bane comes in, right? He plays Cad Bane and he's able to go ahead and take both the space units, so he doesn't have to worry about the space damage, right? The opponent takes the initiative here, and he is not able to take out the Cad Bane, who is now able to go ahead and swing into base here. All right, as you see on the deck list, right, you see the early game. You're just trying to get down units and using Cad Bane's ping. So using things like Greedo, Salacious Crumb, Lady Proxima, get those pings on board. Using things like Crafty Smuggler to then again go ahead and swing into things and not take any damage. That plus the ping is enough to take out any early game, probably, for the most part on turn 1, right? If you Crafty Smuggler turn 1, you're taking out, as long as it's not a space unit, but most ground units by swinging into it on the following turn with Crafty Smuggler, and you're able to keep your Crafty Smuggler with a shield, right? Again, using the early game to kind of control the board through all that, right? Pings, using the shield of Crafty Smuggler, Maclunky, you know, so there's a lot of options there early. Also getting the hand hate with Zine, make sure your opponent doesn't have things to kind of counter your plays, and then you kind of roll into the late game with your big hitters like Xanadu Blood, Zuckuss, and Cad Bane with things like Surprise Strike and the Hotshot Blaster. You can go ahead and deal massive damage in even one swing, right? The Xanadu Blood swinging into the base for 6 in that matchup with ECL, like that's a big chunk of the health of the base, and it really kind of turned the tides, right? So that was the deck in action. You kind of saw how it wanted to play, using the small units to kind of ping, remove things off the board, use Cad Bane's ping, use Lady Proxima's ping to kind of hit the base occasionally, kind of keep things in order and in check. And then again, in the late game, using things like Xanadu Blood, Cad Bane himself, and stuff like that to hit the base for big damage to kind of flip the game on its side, right? Xanadu Blood hitting into the base for 6 was massive. And then having that Cad Bane come in, capturing both space units and allowing the opponent no access to getting any type of damage into the base. It was pretty big, right? You kind of saw how it kind of flipped the tides with the Cad Bane capturing those units. Even with the Palpatine coming out and taking out the board, with just one unit, got it right back, right? The momentum was swung right back to the Cad Bane side. So if you guys are enjoying the content, make sure you hit that sub button down below. Support is always appreciated. If you guys haven't done so yet, check down in the description and check out Maclunky Gaming. Show the love over there, right? Sub over to that channel. They do some amazing work. If you want to see some high level gameplay, best 2 out of 3s, and some big events, that's the place you want to go. We have some big things coming into the channel either next week or the week after. I'm really excited to kind of show you what I've been working on. So stay tuned for that. And again, I'll see you guys in the next video.